right, let's get back to the NFL. Always a pleasure and honor to be joined by former Super Bowl winning head coach from the Baltimore Ravens, Brian Billick. Brian, hope you had a nice Thanksgiving. Did you get to see the whole gang, everybody in town?
Oh
What
yeah,
did you do?
yeah. I went down to Nashville, saw my daughter, got everybody together, played a little golf, which was fun. But we had a great. Nashville was great weather.
All right. Well, belated happy Thanksgiving and an early Merry Christmas to you and the whole gang. Want to ask you, it's amazing, Brian, and you've seen it. You saw it firsthand when you lost Steve McNair. And all of a sudden, you've got these big, huge expectations of a team and a Super Bowl run, a deep run, division title, all those kinds of things. And then, bam, up in smoke, there it goes. But you still got to make do with the next guy up, right? Okay, and in this case for the Bengals, after Joe Burrow, it happens to be Jake Browning. I'm not going to ask you about Jake Browning. I'm going to ask you about being the head coach and being the play caller, which you were, offensive coordinator, coming from Minnesota before Baltimore. Okay. What is a reasonable expectation for this Bengals offense now with a backup quarterback moving forward?
Boy, this is tough. This is why you make the big bucks, because life in the NFL going into December when you're basically out of it for whatever reason, and clearly this one, the injuries and the whole 9 yards. Holding that team together, finding out you got to put their hand to the fire a little bit. Are you going to be a professional? We're going to be what we're going to be, and obviously we're going to have to rely on the running game and the receivers. You got to step up a little bit because next man up's not as good as the guy that we had. So not saying Jake Browning's not good enough, but because he was serviceable. But don't worry about the expectations. Are you going to be a pro? Are you going to finish this thing out? Are we going to be that team? And that's really what you want to try to do is, can we be that team that just finishes strong enough to bode well going into next season, get healthy, get Browner back, all that stuff that goes with it, being one of those teams, because obviously you're out of it. They're not going to think that, oh, well, this can happen and we're going to fight our way through it. But in the back of their mind, that's what they're thinking, and that's what you've got to address.
Okay, well, with that in mind, though, Brian, where do you come down on the side of, okay, you are out of it. Yeah, you want to hold. The culture of this team has been very good. It really has. They don't have any divas, and they don't have all this stuff going on around here, even when they're playing well or not playing well. But you don't. But where do you come down on the whole thing where? Should we now start to look at some of our younger players because we have big decisions to make at the end of the year? Where do you come down on that, knowing that some of the veteran players are trying to get another contract, if not with you, with somebody else?
Right. Yeah, and let's keep in mind now, they're, having said what I just said, they're just one game out of that 7th spot. So you still can have that carrot. That's the fact that the playoffs are 7 deep. At some point, if there's some young players that you need to go to look at, I don't know that they're there yet, because I can imagine Coach Taylor's telling his team, guys, we're 1 game back of the playoffs, and we've got the pedigree, and we can do this. If we just eliminate this area, that, yada, yada, yada. If you then start making those kind of moves to where you're going to start playing some of the younger players, then now you're sending a mixed message. At some point, you're going to get to that, but I don't think they're there yet. All but being one unrealistic. I don't know if it's realistic or not, 1 game out, but they are only the 1 game out. Now, there's a whole bunch in front of them that are also still 6. Like I said before, they're out of the AFC North.
Yeah.
They're in the AFC Wild Card division now. And in that division is Buffalo, Denver, Houston, and Indianapolis. So that's the division you're in right now.
Okay, shift gears over to Buffalo for a minute. If somebody was said, and we talked about it on the show yesterday, if somebody was said when this season began that Buffalo and Cincinnati weren't going to make the playoffs, I think that, if you'd have said, okay, I'll take that bet, you'd be a very wealthy man right now, or at least it's trending in that direction. Buffalo's not out of it either, just like the Bengals. But I wonder, is it almost worse in some way for Sean McDermott up there in Buffalo? They've had their share of injuries on the defensive side, but on the offensive side, they've had everybody there. And, man, they just can't get this thing going.
Yeah, now let's keep in mind, and this is what they're hanging their hat on, I would think. Again, we're right there. It's been tough going, but we went into on the road the best team in the NFL right now, and I think Philadelphia can lay claim to that moniker right now. Smother that offense and Jalen Hurts for better part of 3.5 quarters, threw for better than 300 yards, ran for better than 173 yards. Guys, we're a good football team. Now, you're right. There's just something missing there right now. Lack of confidence, obviously, but they can't. Unlike you lose Josh Allen, that would be a different conversation. Just like losing Joe Burrow, but they haven't, and they are doing some things. So it's just not quite coming together. But they're on that cusp. And again, they went on the road in Philadelphia and said, guys, we took on the best team on the road in the NFL. That tells you how good a team we are. That's what they're hanging to right now. But you're right. There's just something missing right there. And the biggest challenge for McDermott is his players beginning to think, particularly the way they lost that game, was, okay, this is just not going to happen. Players' mindset of, boy, this isn't going to, that negative glass half empty mentality. And you got to believe that's real. You got to fight that every day.
All right. It's interesting. We know that scoring is down in the NFL. And when I went back and looked, and defenses seem to be turning the tide to at least some level from where we've seen in recent years. I look at running the ball. Let's start there, okay? If you look at the top half of the teams in the NFL in the ability to run the ball, Baltimore, Miami, Cleveland, Atlanta, Detroit, San Francisco, Philadelphia, Buffalo, Denver, Dallas, Pittsburgh, Kansas City. 12 of the top 17 rushing teams in the NFL all would be in the playoffs right now. Is the run game coming back into vogue?
Well, there's enough teams that are in a position where they've got to have balance. Their quarterback maybe isn't the future Hall of Famer. Okay, so we've got to balance what they're doing, and so when that happens, yes, and you have some teams that's all they can do, so they're going to press the run. The fact that scoring's down, I think you look at the top quarterbacks in the league right now. Oddly enough, the number one quarterback in the league right now is Sam Howell from Washington, and they're just not very good. So they're throwing the ball a lot, but they're not scoring a lot, and they're just only so good. C.J. Stroud looks pretty good in Houston, and they're beginning to get some traction. Buffalo, Josh Allen's next. But again, something's a little missing there. But no, I don't disagree with you. Particularly now they're getting into December. A good running game is a prerequisite now. Now, when you get to the playoffs, is that enough? And do you not then have to have that guy that can also put it up and down the field? Yeah, you got to have that as well. But I think Kansas City is a perfect case in point. Good, Patrick Mahomes, spectacular. They're not quite as explosive as they have been. So their numbers are down a little bit, and I think the league, you can say that across the board. And so, yeah, the running game does become more important. And but you're gonna, at some point, you're gonna need that QB to step up and be that guy, because the team you're going to face in the playoffs is probably also running the ball pretty good.
Yeah, and again, you go back, I ask you if defenses are catching up. I mean, you look at the top defensive teams in the NFL this year, and I just go through the top 12 here. You've got Cleveland, Baltimore, Dallas, 49ers, Kansas City, Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, Miami, Philadelphia, Buffalo. Those are 10 of the top 12 defenses in the NFL. Do you believe defenses are catching up with offenses?
Well, I think we're playing some pretty good defense, but you look at Cleveland's a perfect example. Phenomenal defense, really the best defense in the league, but their offense just can't keep up. So that's why they're on that cusp. Baltimore's defense is good, not great, not like they've been in the past, but pretty darn good. Plus, combined with an offense that's pretty solid. Kansas City, their defense is what's kind of keeping them in it.
Yep.
And so they got to have confidence, thinking, the offense will start to get its rhythm a little bit. Pittsburgh's just keeping its head above water because of playing great defense. So no, it's like the running game question. Is it good to have a great defense? Yeah. But can you win a championship with that being the primary? Not with the quarterback play we have. There's too many good quarterbacks that you have to go through in the playoffs. But I like my chances when I'm playing pretty good defense and I've got that quarterback. So Kansas City's got to go, hey, defense playing as well as they are. And you know what? I got Patrick Mahomes. Baltimore's going, yeah, we got a good, really good defense. Oh, by the way, I got Lamar Jackson as well. So there, Philadelphia's defense is pretty solid as well. Oh, by the way, we got Jalen Hurts. So that combo of teams that are playing really good defense and have that quarterback, yeah, they're the ones that are you look at and say, well, these are the best teams in the NFL.
Brian, I got to tell you, and you were the guy who said it on this show like 5 weeks ago. I don't know if you were predicting that they would rip off a 5-game winning streak, but I had the chance really this weekend to watch almost the entire Denver game. You were the guy that said, hey, listen now, new coach, Russell Wilson, let's just give this thing a little bit of time and keep an eye on it. They are a legitimate team to play, I think, just about anybody right now. Wilson is playing great.
Yeah, and we knew he was capable of that. And you kind of knew Sean Payton would find the right mix to let him do what he does well. Defense has been good for a while. And you look at what they've got coming up. They got a big one with the Texans, but then they play the Chargers. Lions, at the Lions is tough. Then they got the Patriots. And boy, isn't that a whole different story.
Boy.
And then they're home against the Chargers, and then they're at the Raiders. So their schedule is coming together to where they're going to have a couple, a tough road test with the Lions, but I think they can step up with the Lions. C.J. Stroud and just what he's done down in Texas, that's going to be a hell of a game. That's probably the best game this weekend coming up is Denver at the Texans, and both fighting for that. They're in the same division now, so to speak.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty good game. And Denver's going to be a team to watch because you got to know Russell Wilson still is pretty darn good.
Last thing I wanted to ask you about, you touched on it briefly there a second ago. It might be the most fascinating story to follow once this football season, this regular season is over. Are we getting closer and closer to the New England Patriots parting ways with Bill Belichick?
You can begin with the fact Bill Belichick is a phenomenal slam dunk Hall of Fame coach. The problem is I think we elevated him to this mythical level. And you don't discount, with Brady gone, that makes it so it was all Brady. No, Bill Belichick's a pretty good coach. Is he this mythical, making all the right decisions, never makes a mistake, has his team focused? Well, it has to do with the talent of your team. And like everybody, stand in line. If you don't have a quarterback, you tend to be an average coach. That's just what it turns into. For Bill, it's a matter of, well, look, I clearly need to do something different in New England. They got to come up with a quarterback. Do I want to do that here, or do I, am I just worn out here? Is as much success as we've had, is it just time? Bill Belichick, Bill Parcells always believed you can't stay more than 10 years in one place. Now, obviously, Belichick has gone way beyond that, but that same mentality that, maybe you go do it someplace else because you're going to have to do the same things and rebuild wherever you're going. And he will covet. He wants to get that record, that Don Shula record.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. But he's got it going the way he needs in New England. They'll get it recranked up in the personnel and the whatever. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And the managers, Mr. Kraft, at some point, Bill Belichick pisses you off. Even when you're with all the winning, and that personality, and they may be going, you know what? Maybe we need that breath of fresh air to start us on another path. Because even if Bill wants to stay, how long is he going to stay? And is he there for the next rebuild? Is it 1, 2, 3 years? It's 70 years old, 71. So, yeah, you're right. This is going to be interesting to see what happens. And it's going to be partly his choice as well, I think.
Everybody in our chat, the thousands that are watching, the only question they want answered is, are you ready to assume the play calling duties looking ahead of 2024 for the Cincinnati Bengals, since you live so close now?
Oh, absolutely. That would make a huge, huge difference. Yeah. And it's fun to watch the criticism because Zac Taylor is obviously a great coach. And he's a great play caller, but now all of a sudden he's not.
Yeah.
What, you just lose it? No. I mean, the circumstances and whatever. And once you go on that path, it's hard to go back. So I'm not one of those. Yeah, he's still a football coach. I don't know that he needs to give it up. Maybe he should. Maybe he should and let someone else take that reins, give some energy to it, and you look at the bigger picture. There's certainly legitimate arguments for that. But is it because he's no longer a good play caller? That's silly.
All right, my friend. I'm just telling you what the people want to hear.
The people want Brian Billick to come in there. That would be fun.
But you'd think
that would cut into my golf too much.
Well, you'd think about it, maybe. We'll get you all
right.
set up, up here in Hamilton and the whole 9 yards, and you'd be all set to go.
But you know what I'm going to do? The minute I get down on the goal line, I'm going to throw up a fade, and then you're going to go absolutely ballistic. You will go nuts.
No doubt. I'll be sitting in this studio saying, what is that clown Billick doing down there?
What the hell is he doing? That's right.
That's exactly right. All right, buddy. Have a good rest of your day. Thanks for the time, Coach.
All right, brother.
All right, Brian Billick, kind enough to join us. That's what we used to laugh all the time because every time I see that play, I lose my mind.